on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
What ozone is it's super oxygen. It's just oxygen. It's a triatomic oxygen molecule, and it's unstable, and it kills the bacteria instantly. It dissolves the cell membrane. It ruins the viral capsid. It kills bacteria, fungi, parasites, viruses. You've still got bacteria. Even if you've prepped a tooth, you've still got those decay bacteria in the tooth tubules all the way into the pulp chamber. So, we can't drill our way out of this. We can't scrape our way out of this. We have to be smarter than the bacteria and get into those tooth tubules and help the tooth to heal itself.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast, episode number 452. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to us. And we have a great show for you today. We're not going to disappoint you at all. This one is about ozone. And so, thinking back about what you might already know about ozone, which is probably for the majority of us, not a whole lot. Or maybe we saw it in an article somewhere, or we saw it mentioned that it was in the course listing somewhere. But a lot of us really haven't taken that deep dive into it yet. And so for those people, this is going to answer so many of the questions that you might have in your head about, okay, how do we use it? What is it even? What is the benefit for the patients? How hard is it to implement into the office? All of those types of things. And Barbara Tritz is on the episode today. She's our expert for this particular episode, and she brings it. She's a really great listen. She's so knowledgeable. She's so smart. I love talking with her. So this is a good episode. This is a good introductory episode to ozone. And I think, honestly, though, too, I think hopefully it'll get some of you maybe a little bit open to the idea of starting this in your own office. I think that'd be a good thing. If you're currently an ozone user, I would love for you to email me and let me know how you think this interview went. Was it, did we miss something? Do we need clarifications? Should we follow up? I'll be sure to add that into a follow-up episode at some point. But yeah, that'd be great. So then next week we bring in Teresa Duncan, and it's a longer episode, folks. I'm really kind of sorry. It's almost back to the days of yesteryear where we went, I think, almost an hour. But Teresa and I talk about international dentists. It's a really hot topic. There's potentially a huge impact on what that could mean for our industry. And it's one of those things that, depending on what state you're in, you might already have legislation being introduced, because it is being developed and introduced at a rapid rate across the U.S. And the idea for a lot of this legislation is, it's several-fold. One, are we going to get these foreign-trained doctors into the educational setting? It's something that I've heard in several states where they basically can come in and be an educator. And so they get licensed appropriately for that. Or is this fast-tracking them to be able to practice as a dentist in our country? And then 3, there's the model where the foreign trained dentist comes to the U.S. and is given a hygiene license. And so there's varying degrees of extra requirements and things that they have to do. But it's a polarizing topic depending on what side you're on, because if you're someone that just needs staffing, well, look, this might be a great option for you. You might be in full support. Now, if you're a dental board member and you have people that have, there's 95, 96 countries out there, that is a big, vast world to be able to have to regulate all that. And we kind of go into that in the episode a little bit. But you're charged with protecting the public. How do you regulate that part of the profession if you just open it up to the broader term of foreign trained dentist? And then, of course, if you're a coworker, if you're working in practice and you have, patients that you're going to be following up recares with, and, you want to know how your fellow hygienist or maybe even doctor is doing, and you want to know about their quality of care and their standards and their education and their beliefs and their principles with dentistry. And so it is a really wildly polarizing topic. Teresa and I think honestly, we kind of sat on the same side sometimes, but also on different sides a lot of the times. And she made some really good points. I think that she really kind of helped me kind of see things from a different lens. So, hopefully this will be a good episode for you all. But same thing, I would love to hear your thoughts, even if you're listening to the intro on this before it comes out. Send me some thoughts, Andrew at A Tale of Two Hygienists. And with all things that you send in, let me know if it's okay to read your name on air. I'll read the comments, but maybe I'll keep the name unless you say otherwise. Okay, I think that is all for me for this week. So sit back and enjoy this conversation that Annie and I had with Barbara Tritz.
A tale of two hygienists.
Listeners, welcome into the interview portion of the podcast. We're joined today by Barbara Tritz, Annie Walters, and Annie's baby. So welcome to the show, everyone.
Yes, thank you, Andrew.
And good morning.
Oh, Barbara, thank you for making time this early in the morning on your coast. Well, I guess you and Annie actually are both on the same coast.
We're on the same coast.
Oh, wonderful.
Early morning risers.
Yes.
I'm excited about this conversation just because it's, ozone's been something that I've heard talked about actually for several years. It's not, to me, it's not really all that new, except for it's something I just don't know about. So just context for the listeners. There was a time when I was seriously looking for the different dental trips, like the mission trips and stuff that are out there. And forgive me, I don't remember who was in charge of this trip, but I want to say it was to Belize. And what they were doing was basically going and doing like an educational course in Belize and serving, the people as they were doing it. And it sounded like a really, really good opportunity. It was on my radar. Then it just fell off my radar somehow. Literally, that's the only exposure to the conversation about ozone and dentistry that I've really ever had. I was hoping to go to that trip and learn all about it and learn to see if it was something that we can implement into our practice. But I want to start, Barbara, like for you, when did it get on your radar and kind of how did you get excited about it?
So, Andrew, for years I used chlorhexidine, and I have a phase contrast microscope, so I can look underneath the gum line and see how effective my treatments are for my patients. Yeah. And chlorhexidine just wasn't working, and it made stain. So it made my life more difficult. It frustrated the patients, and it wasn't working as well as I was hoping. So I was on the hunt for a better antibacterial agent. And I went to a conference, the Academy of Cosmetic Aesthetics, and they were talking about perio there. And one of the last speakers was Dr. Bill Dahm, and he came in and started talking about ozone, and I had never heard about ozone before. And I bet that Bill Dahm was the one going to Belize as part of that ozone. Yeah. And then as he was talking about ozone, it was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. Ozone is you can have it in a gas form, so you can insufflate the pockets and get into the tissue and into the tooth tubule with this gas. And you can use it with your water and have ozonated water, and then you can also have ozonated oil. So I could send the patients home with ozone oil. I can disinfect the pockets immediately, because what ozone is it's super oxygen. It's just oxygen. It's a triatomic oxygen molecule, and it's unstable, and it kills the bacteria instantly. It dissolves the cell membrane. It ruins the viral capsid. It kills bacteria, fungi, parasites, viruses, all the things that I could see or not see underneath my microscope. And it didn't stain. And it was like the answer to my prayers. And so I learned about ozone probably 10, 15 years ago. And it is, I call it the Windex of dentistry. And it takes care of everything, and it's natural, and it doesn't stain. It tastes kind of crappy, a little wild. I mean, I admit it, and then I tell my patients that, but it works, and there are very few contraindications, and I use it for everything.
So you've been using it sounds like, for a really long time. Can you touch on a little bit more in detail on like the therapeutic benefits as far as like when it comes to perio or caries prevention or hypersensitivity or what that looks like?
All of the above, yes. So I use medical grade oxygen, and I have an ozone unit. So I hook up my oxygen to it. It converts the O2 to O3. And I have a handle with a cannula on it so that I can go underneath the gum tissue. And the ozone gas permeates the tooth tubules 3 to 5 millimeters. And so I'm going into the tissue, into the tooth, where the caries bacteria, where the periopathogens are. And it just, and it activates the immune system, so it has long-ranging effects. It doesn't just work that one time. It works for weeks afterwards. And it desensitizes the tooth tubules, so the bacteria in the tooth tubules for your teeth that are sensitive, and it closes off those tooth tubules. So I can take a tooth that is like a 9 or a 10 on the sensitivity scale. With a minute to 2 minutes of ozone gas, I can bring it down to a 1, maybe even a 0, and take their sensitivity away. And it is incredible. I mean, it does everything I needed to do in dentistry.
And that for a fact because you're looking at it under the microscope.
And under the microscope and the patient's reaction. I have touched this tooth and I can see the reaction to it, and then I put ozone gas on it, and a minute to 2 minutes later, their face is like, oh my gosh, that doesn't hurt anymore. But if it does still hurt, then that tells me there's a crack in the tooth, and I can't heal cracks.
Of course not.
So
ozone does a lot of things, but
it doesn't do that.
Back up.
But at least that helps me, help the patient, saying, okay, this is the real problem.
Yeah, I want to kind of get into the basically the 3 phases again, just because I want to work through like the workflow. So you were using gas. Why are you not using water in the operatory?
I am. Every morning we make gallons of ozonated water.
Okay.
And we put that in our water bottles, in our water unit lines. I put that in I have an EMS air polisher, so I have that in my air polishing unit, so that because, there's so much bacteria in the tooth tubules and in the tissue that we are then introducing into the bloodstream. So I want to disinfect before I put my instruments in there. So because I've got ozonated water and it's ozone, so the strongest is ozone gas, and then ozone water, then ozone oil. So as I'm working, I'm putting, the water in there so that I'm killing the bacteria before they go into the bloodstream, because it's those bacteremias that we create instantly. I mean, looking at, I just posted on LinkedIn a really aggressive spirochete slide. And these spirochetes are in the brains of dementia patients. They're in our joints. They're in our heart muscle. And they're causing inflammation throughout our body. And so if I need to make sure that I disinfect the pocket before I introduce these bacteria into the bloodstream. And that's what ozone gas does. That's what ozone oil does. And ozone water.
So you guys make your own water, though.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys have a unit that does this. Is the oil also made in-house, or is this something that patients purchase?
The patients purchase. Making ozone oil is dangerous. So I let the professionals do that. Yes. It is because you're cooking the ozone. The way they make ozone oil is they take olive oil or hemp oil or sunflower oil or safflower oil, and then they percolate ozone gas through this oil, and they're heating it for days on end, and then it becomes from that oily substance to a more of a Vaseline texture. Okay. And it can be dangerous. many people who have done it in their garage or their shop have had a fire in there. So I'm not doing that.
Of course not.
As much as I would love to, have, I can buy all the ozone oil I want. So it's not it's available online, and we just stock it in the office so that I send patients home with it. I tell the patients, put a little bit in a shot glass and dip your Pixters in it and work it in between your teeth. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you add it to like a water pick?
Well, you can. So one of my ozone companies, Promo Life, just came out with a 16-ounce ozone water maker. They use electrolysis. And so you put distilled water in, and you put some of their activating booster drops, press the button, and 3 minutes later, you've got ozonated water. It's not as strong, but it is, patients can use it every day. And I use it, you can disinfect counters with it. You can wash your fruits and vegetables with it. It removes the wax coating on your vegetables or your fruits. Ozone is amazing. If you have a wound, if you have a cut, if you have a burn, I put ozone oil on everything around the house. Bug bites, itches, burns. It stops the pain and speeds the healing.
Hence your Windex analogy. Anyway, sorry.
It is everywhere in my house. My daughters look at me like, "Oh, Mom, ozone? Really?" It's like, yeah, it works. I put it on a Q-tip, put it up my nose for during COVID, because that's where the biofilms are. We've got to bust the biofilm, and ozone does that.
You're saying that it wasn't as strong, the one that they're making it at home. Is that like it's not as strong as the oil? So there's like that progression. It's like the one they make at home, then the oil, then the in-office water, then the one you have?
That is a good question. I don't have a good answer for how the oil compares to that 3-minute water.
Do you know why that there's like an oil version? Is it just for shelf life? Is it for
yeah?
What is the okay?
Yeah.
So at the office, how often are you changing out your water?
Twice a day.
Okay.
So
which is pretty normal
because we go through so much water.
Yeah.
And we make we've got really big glass flasks of water, and so we make like 3 big flasks of water. And we go through that water.
So I have a question. I'm just thinking, because Andrew and I both had said that we're not super familiar with this topic. I guess I'm wondering, one, is there a lot of research behind it, or why is it not more commonplace, or why isn't it even in the curriculum with in undergraduate? Where's the disconnect there?
So the disconnect is that ozone is not made by Big Pharma. And they can't make any money off of it. And it is not patentable. It is grandfathered in because it was discovered in the 17 and 1800s. And Nikola Tesla started the first ozone generator company at the turn of the 20th century. And so it's been around for a really long time. And then in the 1930s, the American Medical Association went on the warpath against anything that wasn't pharmaceutical, and they eliminated, acupuncture and chiropractic, and ozone fell in that, and it's never recovered from that. So if we can't make money off of it, it's not endorsed. But there is plenty of research. If you go on PubMed and type in ozone in dentistry, you will get thousands of papers on ozone. And there's research on osteonecrosis, and in the jaw, we can heal those lesions with ozone oil, and there's research on that. There's plenty of research if you just know to look. I mean, I didn't know ozone existed until I listened to Bill Dom talk. So, it is those alternative therapies just aren't endorsed.
Do you feel like you've heard it being more embraced in the medical community? Or are we kind of on par across the
in the
board?
naturopath.
I was just going to say the naturopath and holistic space. I was just going to say that.
Yeah, that's where the naturopaths get it. They inject ozone gas into joints. I had a problem in my shoulder, from all of that, high vac suction, and I had my doc inject into my shoulder, and now my shoulder is better. It's healed. I can use it without pain, and it is amazing. I need to go back and have my knees done now. But it activates the immune system, and that's what ozone does. That's the beauty of it. It works with your body to activate your immune system.
I want to go back to if someone's, okay, this sounds really good, we want to try and put this into practice. Can you walk us through maybe some of the steps, some of the key things that you have to know for administration, for maybe ordering the equipment, anything to help someone get started?
So, the best thing to do is to go to a course and learn about ozone. And there are a few ozone courses and teachers throughout the United States. So that's number one. Especially to inject ozone gas, you've got to be trained. But anyone can purchase ozone oil. You don't need a license. You don't need training on that. And because I've got a phase contrast microscope, I can see how effective that is with my patients. And so, it's important. I think every hygienist should be testing. We have to test, teach, treat, repeat. That's my mantra. And whether it's ozone or it's, baking soda water or just, a better toothbrush, as long as you're testing, you can confirm that it's better or not. Ozone oil, anybody can use that. I use it even when I'm scaling. I put some ozone oil on my glove and dip my instrument in. So again, I'm disinfecting as I'm working because I want to get that, that bacteremia really bothers me. We have spirochetes in the brains of dementia patients. How did they get there? Where did they come from? This is 4 inches away. The mouth to the brain is not that far. And those spirochetes, they're like snakes, and they burrow into nerves, into blood vessels, and they travel throughout the body. So having a disinfectant that I know works instantly just makes me feel so much better about what I do, because I don't want to create more problems by cleaning teeth.
So a hygienist could just start with getting some oil. And how do they know which oil or what, are there different, how do they know it's a good one?
I would stay with a reputable company. Longevity, which now I think Star Scientific, let me confirm that. And then I get my ozone oil from Promo Life, and they are a good ozone company as well. And we stock it in the office, and they have a tooth and gum support, and it, like I said, it doesn't taste great, but they do have one with flavoring agents and stevia. So it's, they can make it taste a little less awful. But
it wouldn't be the first time we tasted something bad. And
exactly.
It's topical, right? Topical's
it's
trying
topical.
to taste good, but it doesn't.
You just can't mask it. So
either.
it's okay. It's not forever.
Yeah. And you can also, you don't need training to get an ozone water maker. And there are just ozone water makers. And the beauty of ozone in your water unit, as I said, it busts the biofilm. So all of our water lines are pristine, all of them. And we test periodically, and they are, I have no red spots on our clear pass at all. And I have photos of that. I can document that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And because it busts the biofilm, and what do we have in our water lines? Biofilm.
we're constantly trying to combat it's all about the biofilm. We're constantly trying to understand what's in the biofilm and how to break down the biofilm. And so that's really interesting. And I think it's also too, when I get the perspective I come from, is how to make something efficient and easy for a hygienist to incorporate into their practice now. And so that's why I was wondering, what can we start with? And I think the oil is just a simple way to start.
Absolutely. And the patients get it and they will use it.
What does it look like on the doctor side? What's the partnership? I would assume that there's no is there a risk of toxicity? Like if they have too many exposures, like if you go from hygiene to the doctor's op in the next day or whatever, do you have too much ozone? Where do they apply it? What kind of tools do they have to use?
So we have on the ozone unit, when we make our water, we have an exhaust tube, if you will, and we call that the destructor. So we convert the ozone that comes back to oxygen. So, you don't want to breathe direct ozone. So if I'm working on a tooth, I'm suctioning right next to it with ozone gas. If I'm using ozone gas. So you don't want to breathe that because the lungs are really sensitive to ozone and you will start coughing. And so that's why the training is really important, because we don't want to hurt anybody. The doctors use it mostly gas, and of course they've got it in their water lines as well. And they, when we prep a tooth, they'll ozone it so that there's no post-op sensitivity. Extraction sites, again, you've got to clean out all that bacteria in there, and we ozone the gas into the pocket extraction sites. The doctor that I work for does implants, and she can coat the implant with ozone oil. And again, we're killing the bacteria, and it helps with integration of the implant. So, and because the ozone gas goes into the tooth tubules, 3 to 5 millimeters, you've still got bacteria. Even if you've prepped a tooth, you've still got those decay bacteria in the tooth tubules all the way into the pulp chamber. So, we can't drill our way out of this. We can't scrape our way out of this. We have to be smarter than the bacteria and get into those tooth tubules and help the tooth to heal itself.
I'm curious. I think about when you were talking about testing or placing implants and understanding the bacteria that's in the implant site. And I'm just curious, I don't know if studies have been done, but looking at implant success rates over time that have used ozone, or are implants integrating quicker at all as far as utilizing ozone, or is there more efficiency there? I'm just curious about that.
I mean, I would have to do a little digging to give you a better answer as to exactly how many research studies there are.
It'd have to be a longitudinal study, I'm sure. It would be, challenging.
But our success rate in our practice is outstanding. I see in my 44-year career as a hygienist, I've seen a lot of failures in implants. Yep. And it's because they're not disinfecting before, they don't have healthy tissue. And those implants that go in the same day they do the extractions, you've got so much bacteria in there, and viruses and fungus, and you've got to deal with the infection before you can put something new in there. So, knowing the healing that takes place with ozone, our success rate, I can vouch for what we do in our office. It is healthy. It is
That's
good.
Great.
They're stable. They're strong. So
I have probably 2 last questions as we're wrapping this up. Yeah, I sent something to Annie earlier this morning. I'm like, you need to check this out, because there was a question that was posted in social media earlier, and it seems like people don't really read the whole context, right, of things. And I feel like something like ozone is kind of on that. It's a fringy kind of scary thing for a lot of people. And I feel like the hygienists don't really embrace it either.
Yeah.
What would you say though to those people who are maybe this probably is just kind of woo-woo-y, probably is, it's too good to be true, it's too easy, it's too, it's not studied enough or whatever? What would you tell them?
I would say there is a lot of research, and it is, I want to work with the body. I want to help the body to heal itself. And something as simple as oxygen is natural. And the beauty of ozone is that if it doesn't help, it's not going to hurt. You can always do other things, but start with something simple, natural, and healing. And we know, there's plenty of research that ozone helps speed healing. So I would say be open to, expanding your toolbox and helping the patient, because, I've seen what spirochetes do, and I've seen what amoebas do, and I've seen what fungus does. And, our bacteria are resistant to our scalars, and the biofilm recreates within 24 hours. So I think we have to be smarter than that and bust the biofilm, kill the bacteria, reset, and help grow a healthy microbiome.
I love it. I love it. So the last question I have is for the students, because we have a lot of younger people listening to the show. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about ozone or research or anything like that, but just a message to the students as they kind of are getting, set on their career. Hopefully they'll get to 44 years as well or longer. So what kind of advice do you have for them?
Gosh, I love being a dental hygienist, and I love being a biological hygienist because I went into healthcare to be a healer. And so, keeping an open mind and learning and going to conferences and talking and reading and just really, your education in school is the launching pad to now be that scientist, healer, and therapist that you went into healthcare to be. And don't just limit yourself to what you learned in school. Be open to exploring, because the body is just so fabulous, and it will heal itself if you give it the building blocks to do that.
Barbara, you're amazing. Thank you so much. Listeners, she has a really great website. If you ever want to check that out, Barbara, where can they go to see your website?
My website is queenofdentalhygiene.net.
I appreciate that. And then your contact information, I assume, is there as well.
Correct. On my website.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.